Hello, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. We're at another Dev Diary / map tour video, and I apologize if I sound a little nasally or a little bit like off. Every time I've tried to record this video, or at least the microphone portion, apparently every single vehicle known to man needs to just pass by my house and completely ruin the clarity of the microphone. So I've closed all the windows, we got all the fans off, and we're gonna give this a try. So we get started. I don't know how much time I have left. I'm gonna suffocate or something, so let's go. So the last video I did, I kind of was like sort of all over the place in terms of what I was saying versus like the map tour and sort of explaining that stuff. So I'm gonna do this in sections, get all the intro stuff done now before I load the map, and then let the map sort of play out and explain what's happening as the map starts up. And then sort of go into what the progress was towards the end of that. So once we're done with the tour, we go over there. So this map is pretty new. I would say, honestly, it's hard to tell how new. I would say it's maybe a month old, maybe even less. It's made by a Mr. Edward Qwerty. He's been in the Discord for a while. He's been helping out with all sorts of stuff. He's been really helpful in terms of like explaining things about the game because he's played it a lot more than I have. You know, I've grown up with it, but you know, I'm not a kid anymore, so I don't entirely remember every feature in there. And he's also an avid modder. He's done his own mod before, and he helped out in terms of explaining things like on the Hammer side, because I'm not a mapper, I'm a programmer, so that's just the nature of the beast there. But having those explanations in Hammer did help out with understanding sort of how the game runs and how certain entities function when I'm sort of reverse engineering it. And there's no sort. I think like 60% of those sort ofs were unnecessary, but you know, we're gonna skip that anyway. And I guess let's just go on the map. So this map is probably the new test map that we're gonna be using. It's pretty much like the newest / blocking stuff that needs to be done, because I mean some of it has been revisited. I've taken notes about stuff, but some of these things have also been discovered through the course of doing some of the other fixes. So this map is called Bed and Stuff Test. So let's just hop right in, and you know, we're gonna do the let's play of this map tour, you know.
Sir, wake up! The manor is under attack.
So this is the bed get up,
I'm gonna see if the master
like
is all right.
cutscene
Hide
/
yourself.
sequence. Keen eye will notice this is the exact same building from the campaign, because I believe this cutscene could not work any other way. And again, the rules are that I'm playing this in single player to sort of give the exact demonstrations of everything that needs to be functioning. So one of the things that do crash the game is this get up sequence over here with the bed. I have a theory that it happens because either A, the player isn't loaded in yet because it's a multiplayer server, so technically the logic starts up beforehand. But assuming that there's a trigger here, it's likely doing the same problem with the local player targeting and all sorts of issues. So that's something that would need to be handled. It should be pretty easy to handle, but those cinematics are it's a little bit tricky to think about, just because I would need to have every player sync up their camera at the very least to that point. So in terms of long-term solutions, there's plenty of options, but those short-term ones, while the thing is young, that's gonna be different. So you know, you got your NPC over there. I got one of these things. It's a good idea to, you know, consider the fact that some of these steps that are here, the physics interactions, NPCs targeting, you know, all this stuff does need to function. So having it over here to reaffirm that it works is definitely a helpful thing. And you'll see that I have also a bunch of items that were from that portion. We got mana, you know, weapons, food, and this book. So one of the things I haven't tested yet is whether or not these books do work in multiplayer. Because logically speaking, they should, right? They're overlays that go over. The game won't pause, so this will probably just jump on the screen. But I'd imagine this should work. There'll probably be a targeting issue where you double click the book and nothing happens. However, the inventory has been relatively instanced because the way Dark Messiah handles inventories is its own entity and has all sorts of logic in that. which might be a good idea for a Twitter post. So I may make that Twitter post before I even publish this video. So if you see that, if you go to Twitter, you see that there, then know that I did it. So, you know, you've got these weapons here. The mana, all that stuff has worked. I've tested this before. Skill trees work, all sorts of things like that. And yep, you got your building over here. Having that NPC in there, the enemy, is useful for two reasons. I don't know what this is for. You have your NPC enemy, which would be useful to test corpses, right? But also killing friendlies. They should still behave properly. Granted, this NPC is kind of rudimentary logic, so nothing too special there. And as you see, we go into this room here. We've got a ladder, some beams, I guess. Yeah, that's to be where our ropes would be, and boom, we got the rope bow right there. So again, rope is currently the target that we're trying to fix. There's a lot of stuff that was progressed in terms of discovering what functions could be used and etc. So I'm hoping that in the next video I get to go more into that. But one of the things that was brought up actually by QWERTY is whether ladders work, and it was something that I completely forgot, because there's, you know, in most of my tests there's never really a ladder, but ladders have the same sort of custom handling that a rope does. It sets the model to a certain state and then follows up the thing. Now, I don't think that the exact methods will be the same, because in the rope logic, actually the model of the rope itself, that like, I think it's a sprite, honestly. It basically it gets parented to the model of the player, and that's why I'll probably put a video up of the problem and solution. When I actually do solve it, you'll be able to see sort of what happens before, like the rope disappears, all sorts of things. You know, we have some nice ambient noises to make sure soundscapes still work. We have these nice jumping platforms to make sure ledge grabbing worked, although I'm pretty sure this worked. Ledge grabbing was something that we did do often in the previous test map, specifically on the button platform, but that should be okay. So that is this area. This jungle gym over here is currently the havoc that we're trying to solve right now. And I keep saying we, even though I'm the one working on it. It's a force of habit. It makes me feel less lonely, I guess. Who knows? Maybe we as the community. I'm gonna go with that one. That one seems more intelligent. So these buttons are to activate cutscenes and set objectives. So this is one of the things that, again, cutscenes do have some issues, because cutscenes are actually bound to what's known as the player inputs entity, which, like the inventory, is a separate thing attached to the player. And those are instance per player, but the logic inside does directly reference that, the local player and stuff like that. The objectives updated, and we should be able to press our objective button and see all that stuff there. It's very important that we're able to do that, because, again, that is all handled in the player input stuff. So this wall is basically player input side. This is the player logic side. And then we have just a cutscene, which is a little bit of both, right? That's pretty much this map. It's a little bit tiny. It is. We can turn on no clip. We can turn on cheats, and then we can turn on no clip. You'll see it's just about as small as our other map. Just, you know, it's got a little more geometry to it. And a nice little skybox, I assume, is residual of the copy and paste of the Menelag house over here. But yeah, this is what the next steps are, because most of the previous logic in terms of combat and stuff is working. Granted, there was some problem with the orc being grabbed, or excuse me, when the orc grabs you, it would grab someone else, and that would need to be solved. But this is sort of the next step, because this actually crashes the game. Like, we need to get this stuff working, because even if this is a run through playable, no crashes, then that's so far a success. Like, that means that we're at a base state where the game works in multiplayer, and the crucial functionality, things that will block you from progressing, are also there, because you need this rope bow. Very important. It's something I set. So, you know, let's go on that status update. You know, I gotta say, opening that Twitter has been just a, like, it feels great, even even if there's, you know, a very focused following, because I'm strictly using it for Dark Messiah stuff, but, you know, if you're not already on there, I would recommend going on there, because I actually am putting a lot more frequent minor updates, things that can't fit in this dev diary. So I'm thinking is at the end of the month, I'll do like a Twitter recap sort of thing, and explain pretty much, or just, I guess, recap, every single thing that I was talking about in the Twitter. Because all those extra steps, and even I've posted some failures along the way, I found functions, followed some logic, it led to a dead end, so continued past, and just sort of, you get to see kind of the mindset when you go into this. Because one of the things that I say a lot when I'm doing this reverse engineering is that at some point, you really start getting the hang of how the programmers set up all their functions, and like, you really get into the mind of what they were doing. And once you do that, things get a lot easier to actually handle and replicate, even just fully reverse engineer it. Things look familiar, right? So with those updates, I think that it gives a good idea of kind of the movement and the path forward. So I've discovered sort of a method of getting the rope that the player is attached to, because there is actually a variable attached to the player that corresponds to the rope they're currently on, and the rope variable is also, it has some property on it that would tell you what player is on it, or what entity, in the case that there is a, you know, like a barge or a bunch of logs or something, the environmental hazards that you can use against the enemies, that sort of stuff. And I'll probably have, like, the next video is going to be in depth about the rope stuff. I'm hoping to have this issue solved, because I feel like I'm just close enough to getting the solution. I've got all the pieces there, and I got a good idea of how those pieces work and how they could possibly come together. It's basically spitballing a bunch of ideas, reworking some of the logic, and using those functions that I discovered to my advantage to not have to rework all the logic, but perhaps create some exit points. But I have also been doing some detours in terms of, like, I was upset about some certain functions being there, or some certain visuals that I didn't like, so the quality of life stuff that really I shouldn't have been doing. But because I was looking in that area of code for the rope, I would actually continue going in there and just be like, maybe I could change this, you know, do all sorts of stuff like that. But that's, you know, that's pretty much what this is like. And that is going to be it for the video, probably. I mean, honestly speaking, I think the next one, I'm a little scared it might get too technical, so I gotta wrap my head around this. As I mentioned before, I mean, I've been trying to record this like 100 times, and just wasn't working out. And I don't know if this is obvious by the ums, and all sorts of stupid delays in my speech, but I am not ever scripting any of these reviews. I'm pretty much just going conscious stream, just going out, saying everything that is coming to my mind about this topic and going at it. That's why I ramble a lot, and why you're listening to rambling right now. So it kind of is difficult to do this when just everything starts interfering with the quality that's there. And I'm scared that I'm gonna have to start recording these videos in like the dead of the morning. Like, I'm talking 3 a.m., 4 a.m. when people should be asleep. People aren't going to work, especially when the summer's over and you got the kids going to school, all sorts of things like that. So that's pretty much that. Think of that like a video dev diary, the dev diary for the dev diary. Get a little snippet of that. But you know, thank you everybody. With honestly, the Twitter has, I see people retweeting, I see people interacting, you know, there's likes, all sorts of things like that. Twitter's a new thing for me. I've never done Twitter before, but I appreciate everybody that's kind of taking a step in, you know, because I really want to interact, because again, this isn't just for me, this is for the entire community, and I feel like those interactions are very crucial to making sure that you are not missing anything, or that you know, consider what people are going through when they're playing the game. Granted, that's not something I'm considering now, because I'm not at the state of rebalancing or anything like that, but that is going to be something that's extremely important to me going forward. So yeah, now let's hit those social, you know, shills. So we got, you know, now we got the Twitter. So you got to be on that Twitter. You got to be following that Twitter. It's in the description. It's going to be the same all the time, you know. like the video, subscribe to the video, leave a comment in the video, you know, even dislike the video. I don't care. Just let me know why you don't like it. Maybe because I talk too much, or you just don't like it because, I don't know, you just don't like it. To which I'd ask you, why are you in this video? Why'd you get this far in the video more than anything else? Whatever. But, you know, I appreciate all the support, appreciate the feedback people are giving me, I appreciate the interaction. I appreciate you. I appreciate you watching this video, and I appreciate that you will, in fact, have a great day. Okay? That's what I appreciate the most. Take it easy.